or any questions you have in your heart regarding math.
Does anybody have any animal print? You mind if I see one?
Oh no, take all the animal prints you want.
Do we have any animals? Come on! I have.
Trevor Westfall forgot to wear his animal print clothing.
I have an animal shirt.
I do too.
That's okay.
It's an animal. Questions over answers first, and then we'll see about how do you do, about how you do what you do that you do. Sydney. 7 was x is less than 1. Is that the one? Open circle at 1 going to the left. 13 is 41 2/3% and 0.41 repeater 6 as a decimal. And 20, did you say? Just those. John.
What was number 18?
18, 1.2 times 10 to the 6th.
Lil?
Lil? Oh, 10 to the negative 6. 1.2 times 10 to the negative 6. You are correct. Lil?
What was that?
2. 19 is 2. Ethan. So,
For 18,
for 18, if you put 12 times 10 to the negative 7th, it would be wrong.
then I moved the decimal and I made that small. I made it.
Yep, you make the decimal one bigger, and when you add 1 to negative 7, you get negative 6. Remember, decimals, negative integers work opposite of what you think. Positively, Ethan, 7 is bigger than 6, but negatively, negative 6 is bigger than negative 7. It's the beauty of the bicameral system. Speaking today is Super Tuesday. You will know a lot about the Democratic people after today. Will Bernie Sanders survive?
No.
I doubt he will, actually. I'm hoping the good people of Michigan have more sense than that. As much as I'd like you guys to go to college for free, I can't afford you. Just in case you're wondering. They should make college affordable. Not free, but affordable. You know, get yourself a job. Work your way through school, Ethan Malis. Stop freeloading off your parents. Get a job.
I'll start becoming an accountant now.
Yes, I'm sure somebody needs you to count something. Sydney McCoy, what can I do for you? Who? I would love to do one on the board, ladies and gentlemen. It's my hope that number 1 is not terribly difficult for you in the sense that if you just said, did you happen to just draw yourself a percent box? Did you fill the blanks in appropriately? Did you do the math correctly? Probably not, if you got it wrong. Cindy, we are taking this repair bill and we're splitting it into 2 pieces. What are the 2 pieces? Parts and labor. Did your box happen to look like that? And total? What was our percent for parts? We don't know. Percent for labor, but we know the total is always going to be 100%. Sid, have you ever had to pay for your car bill? How about a go-kart bill? So, did you ever have to pay for that or no? No? That was nice. Anyways, how about actual dollars, Sydney? What's this? What's $120? Where does that go? Is that how much parts or labor or total? Very good. You got that? And where does 36 go? Parts or labor? So how much is labor? Yeah, 84. And then you're supposed to figure out what? This right here, right? So here is your fraction / equation. You have what number over 100 equals 84 over 120. Did you get that far? And you just didn't get the answer to that point? Because all the work is done now. Sid, what's my easiest way to do this? How would you do this? What's that? Yeah, can you reduce? What does 84 and 120 reduce to? Well, I could cut, no, you can reduce, I would reduce. You cut half of 84 is 42. Half of 120 is 60. And you can cut those in half again, right? What's half of 42? 21, did you say? Half of 60 is 30. Is there a number that goes into those? 21 divided by 3 is 7. 30 divided by 3 is 10. Alright, so this is my new fraction. I can get rid of all this stuff here. Can you go from 10 to 100? By multiplying by 10. So multiply 7 times 10, you get 70, right? That is my percent. Ethan will tell you, amidst all of his calculations, that that was the number he really wanted to say after all of that. Ethan?
What's number 19?
Number 19 was, I'm not sure. How about 2? Somebody asked me on number 19, is that the
Oh, no,
multiply one? No, yeah, no. Trevor Westfall?
Number 3 on board.
I would love to do number 3. Did you draw your triangles, Trev?
Yes.
Meter stick, right? How long is the shadow?
24 inches.
24 inches. Flagpole. How long is the shadow?
16 feet.
So those are your 2 triangles, right? Now, one thing, Trevor, you have to watch out for, and if you got this wrong, please make sure you know this. This and this cannot be in different units of measurement. If this is in inches, then this has to be in inches. Or you can make this in meters, but since that does, or, what's that, what is it?
Oh, yards.
Oh, yards, this was yards. This cannot be in yards and that in inches, so you would probably want to make this 36 inches. Did you or didn't you know?
I made it 36 inches.
Okay, so you set it up like this then. Here's our small triangle, big triangle. Height to shadow. Height of the small triangle is 36 inches. Shadow of the small triangle is 24 inches. Big triangle height, we don't know. Big triangle shadow is 16 feet. Did it end up looking like that?
Yes.
And then what? 36 over 24 equals height over 16. Did you get that? No. Because then you just reduce this fraction just like we reduced before. 12 goes into both of these. This is 3 over 2. And 2 times 8, 3 times 8 is 24. See where you erred?
Yeah.
Carolina, did you find it? I'm sure this was, I think this was Thursday of last week. Were you here Thursday of last week? I believe Mrs. Nolan was sitting right back there, was she not? Wait, no, this was Friday of last week. Were you here Friday of last week, Caroline? Okay, so I'll make sure. Ethan,
You read number 7 on the board, please?
number 7.
Or actually, sorry, no, not that problem. I mean, well, I'm just asking what would make it an open circle again?
Okay. This is an inequality, this is set, this is, you say this is less than, if it doesn't have an equal sign under it, it's an open circle. You put an equal sign under it, we call that less than or greater to, or equal to, sorry. Less than or equal to means it can be equal to it. Less than means it starts at it, but it can't equal it. You with me on that? So when you did this one, you know, your answer, you subtract 2 from both sides, this becomes a 1. You start at 1, but you can't be equal to it. In other words, if I asked you to give me a number that is less than 1, you could tell me 0.9, right? Okay. Here's my 0. I can have any number that's here, but I can't have 1. If I asked you, is 1 less than 1? You'd say, no, it's not. So, open circle without an equal sign. Yes, sir.
But basically, it's like if x equals 1, 1 plus 2 is 3. It's not equal to or less than.
That's why it's
It's
open
less,
circle.
it's,
Has to be less than 1.
1 plus 2, yeah, it has to be any number that, oh, if it's the same thing, it's true. If I put 0.9 in there, 2.9 is less than 3. But if I put 1 in there, 1 plus 2 is not less than 3.
what's the answer?
This is the answer. X is less than 1. And that's the graph of it.
Oh, okay, never mind. Now I got it.
Yes. Yes, any number less than 1, 0, negative 1, negative 2, 3. Is it a race between you two to see? Trav,
Number 13, can you do it on wood?
number 13. El numero el cuatro, what is, I don't know how to say 13 in Spanish. Trente? What? Trece? Trece? We do have Spanish, oh no, we don't have Spanish, okay. Oh yeah, 5/12. How do I make that a percent, ladies and gentlemen? Who got this right? Connor, how'd you make it a percent? Alright, there's a bunch of different ways to do this. One way, Connor said, is you can divide it. You can make it a decimal first, right, and then divide. 12 into 5. How many times is 12 going to 50? 4 times, correct? 48. 12 goes into 20 once. And then, what about this, CJ? What happens when I get an 8 there?
Oh, and you're not in the numbers to drop? Yeah, you're saying.
Well, I'm saying, if I'm making this a percent and I just divide it out, I get 0.41 and then I have this 8 left over on the bottom there. Yeah, but if I do that, how many times does 12 go into 80? 6 times. And then I get 72. I keep getting all these 6s. The question I have for you, because the answer is 41 2/3%. How do I get that from what you're doing? I get, the decimal you get is certainly 0.41 repeater 6. But the question I have is how do you get that to a percent?
And the decimal's 6 greater than 5, so it's 42. And then
You could move the decimal 2 places, you get 41%, and then 0.6 is, you need the fraction 2/3. Probably the easy way to think about that is to, Ethan, was this you? Who asked me this question, Trevor?
Yeah.
Is to multiply it by 100%. If you multiply it by 100%, it'll change it into a percent. Which is really the same thing we did, except the decimals are moved where they need to be. You get 500 divided by 12, and when you do that out, you get 41 2/3%. Multiply by 100% would be my. Does that help? What did you try? Let me ask that question.
I did all that. I did 500 divided by 12, and I got 41.6 repeater.
Right, and you just have to remember, when we do percents, we don't like to mix decimals with percents very well, and 0.6 repeater is the same as the fraction 2/3.
Okay.
So you get 41 2/3. Sid? Problem number 6. Did you do it out? And I guess the issue people had in the other class is they did not know what a diagonal is. What is a diagonal? Sid, what's a diagonal? You know what a diagonal is? Diagonal just goes from one opposite corner to the other opposite corner. So that's the diagonal. Got that? And they just want to know how long is that diagonal. How would I figure out how long that diagonal is? What do you think? Think about this as being a triangle. What type of triangle is it? A right triangle, which makes it a, see if you've got a Pythagorean triple. Is there a 1024? So what should you do? 5 what? 512. Is there a 512? Yeah, you got that. You know it's 2 512. 13. Is my answer 13 though? No, 13 is so small, you have to remultiply it by 2 to get your 26 for the big one. Yeah, does that help? CJ?
Can you do 12?
Actually, okay. If I could find 12. Oh yeah, here was number 12. This would be a good one for you to jot in your notes. We talked about this in parallelograms, children. It said angle B was 61 degrees, right? What do you know about parallelograms? One of their characteristics is opposite angles are this angle and this angle. Angle B and angle D are the same angle. They have to be if it's a parallelogram, which means angle A and angle C are also equal. How would I figure out what this angle and that angle are? Two different ways. Two ways you can figure that out. John Daffenberg?
Well, they have to equal 180.
Okay, number one is this angle plus this angle. We call them adjacent angles. They share the same side. They have to equal 180 degrees. So 61 plus what number is 180 degrees? 180 minus 61 is 119 degrees. Another way you could figure it out is that in a parallelogram, as in any four-sided shape, all the angles have to add up to, think about a rectangle. You've got 4 right angles there, right? Every four-sided shape has to equal 360 degrees inside of it. So if you start with your 360 degrees, I take away the 261s from angle B and angle D, which is what, 122? I end up with what? 238 for C and A, and they have to be equal because they're opposite angles. If you cut that in half, you get your 119 degrees. Who asked me that question? What did you get for the degrees of the angles?
Oh, I got 109.
And
I
did
think I
you
just messed up some.
subtract it wrong? Ethan, what was your question on that? Was there a question on that?
Yeah. I was just asking you number 20.
Number 20. Oh,
I mean,
I am so glad Ethan asked that. Why? Does anybody know why? Sometime I'm gonna give extra credit for this. You can answer it.
because there's a letter in front of the.
Yes, there's a letter in front of the fraction, which means in the end I'm going to.
Flip them over.
Ethan, but before I do that, what do I have to do?
You have to do to one side, do to one side of the equation and do the other.
Which means I have to get rid of this by doing what?
Take away 3/4.
Take away 3/4. Did you do that part, Ethan?
I did.
You did? What's my common denominator?
8.
So it's 9/8 minus 6/8, which is? Ethan?
That is 3.
And if 3/8 equals 7/8x, here's the part where, let's see, I will ask somebody out in the blue there. No, I'm not asking you. Garrett, how do I solve that equation? Yeah, get rid of fraction. Why is it flipping multiplying? Because flipping multiplying is dividing by, and that is multiplying. You do the opposite. So you get 8 sevens. Cross off. X equals 2 sevens. X equals 3 sevens. You look confused at that. Did I do something wrong? Won't happen. Sid McCoy? Maybe that's maybe so. Oh, sure. How about this, Sid? What is 4 to the 0 power, Sid?
1.
Thank you very much. Anything to the 0 power is 1. What's 3 to the first power, Sid?
3.
Very good. Anything to the first power is itself. What's 2 squared, Sid? 4. And then what's 1 to the 3rd power? Said what is 1 times 1 times 1? 1 to the 3rd power is 1 times 1 times 1, which is 1. And then there's a minus sign in front of it. So minus 1. Is that where you went wrong? Were you 2 off on your answer? Well, that's why. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 minus 1 is 7. Ethan?
So for 8, my question is, why would it be minus 1?
For 8?
Yep. For
Problem number 8?
yes. Because the equation was y equals 1/2 x minus 1.
Why would it be, what was your question? Why would it be 1? It's a minus 1. You asking why it would be minus 1? Johnny D, you handling that for me?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I'm sure some of you have that question as well. How many of you missed problem number 8? Raise your hand if you missed problem number 8. Garrett, you got number 8 right? What was it, he says? Ladies and gentlemen, if you are looking for slope-intercept form of a line, you just need to know 2 things. You need to know the letter B here, which means where does it cross the y-axis? Here's the y-axis. Where does that line cross the y-axis? Right there, Ethan, at what number?
-1.
Yeah, at minus 1. That's what the B is. And then the letter M is the slope of the line. And slope of the line is what? Trevor Westphal?
2/4.
Well, it could be 2/4. There's a whole bunch of answers it could be. You need to find a place where it crosses a coordinate and make a triangle out of it. How high is the triangle? 1. How wide is the triangle? 2. So my fraction is 1 up, 2 over. And it's going uphill, so it's a positive slope. Ethan, did that answer your question? What was your issue on that?
I did positive 1 for some reason.
Even though it was at the -1 place? That positive 1 would be up here somewhere. CJ?
Jacobson.
Is that the top of the next page?
Yes.
Which one's this one about?
Just the area parallelogram.
Do you have the formula for the area parallelogram up and down?
That's how it's math.
Wait, have we never done area
No,
parallelogram?
we did that. I know. No, if I did it. 'Cause I did
John
this,
Licht,
so-
what's your formula for the area parallelogram? No, look in your papers. I'm sure you have it written down.
I don't.
Wait, you don't?
No, I don't.
You have it in your notes? Area of a parallelogram, John Licht. The thing we've got all day. Area of a parallelogram. You're not writing it down for tomorrow either, John?
All right,
You will. I like that. Maybe to go get an attitude I'm looking for. Area of a parallelogram, John. Did you get this one right, John?
no.
I did. Oh. Willie Johnson, area of a parallelogram? You don't have it written down? Formula? I would think everybody would have this written down. Brady?
Length times width.
That is incorrect. It is not length times width. That's area of
I
a
don't have this one.
rectangle.
Because I did the 2 triangles, which is like A plus 1/2 base and height, and then I noticed that when you said the answer that I asked you why. I think like 30.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't have this written down, this would certainly be it doesn't get any easier than this. The area of a parallelogram is the base times the height. Now, somebody just told me it's length times width, and I said no.
I thought.
It's not length times width, because that means 2 different things. Base and height in math have to be what, Braden? Base and height in math imply what?
They have to be like equal.
No, they have to be right angles. And if you look on here, look for the place where there's a square, because the square tells you the base times the height. So area should be 7 times 10, which is why it's 70. Whatever that is, inches squared. Which means if you got that wrong, you probably got the next one wrong too, because the area of triangle ABC, is 1/2 base times height, which means it would be half of that 70. Trev?
What was the answer before?
Number 4 was $12.30. Trevor,
Can you do 12 on, 17 on board?
12 and 17?
Just 17.
Oh, yeah. Same thing the other class asked, what is the problem with problem number 17 is the negative exponent with the fraction. Carolina, how do I make a negative exponent with the fraction to a positive exponent? There you go, congratulations. This will become a positive 1 if I just flip that fraction to its opposite. And that, ladies and gentlemen, pretty much seals the deal. Anything to the first power is itself, so it's not going to change. I just do 3/2 minus 2/3. Common denominator is 6. 9/6 minus 6/6. Why does that seem like 4/6? Sorry. What is 9/6 minus 4/6? But 5/6. We have done negative exponents and fractions, haven't we? Multiple times? Thousands of times? Every time. Uh-oh. CJ?
What was the answer, 16?
I believe it was 3xy. 3xy. Sid! Number 9. Did we already do number 9?
No.
Should we have done number 9?
What's the next?
A coin is tossed and a number cubed is rolled. What's the probability of getting a heads? Probability of getting a heads and the probability of getting an even number on the cube. If you're looking for two different things to happen together, how do we figure out those probabilities? John Davenport?
You multiply the probability of getting a head and probability of getting.
Right, you multiply the two probabilities together. So when you flip a coin, your probability of getting a head is, there's one head out of two sides to the coin, correct? This one might be a little more complicated. If you roll a die, your possibilities are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. How many of those are even numbers? Anybody? 2, 4, and 6, right? 3 out of 6 are the even numbers, which is the same as 1/2. What is 1/2 times 1/2? 1/4. We did that many minutes ago. CJ?
3 to 4. Oh, yeah.
Wait, do I still need to do it? Oh, yeah. I'll do 4.
Sure, I guess. I understand.
Yeah. We talked about this in the other class too. Tax and tip is what? Anytime you talk tax and tip, everybody gets confused. I think for some reason it's division. Tax and tip is always multiplication, because you are looking for 7 1/2% of 164. Now the problem most people run into is, how do I change 7.5% into a decimal? What is 7.5% as a decimal? Jonah Winkleman, I have not heard from Jonah Winkleman much today. What is 7.5% as a decimal? 0.075. Correct. Sorry. So you're just gonna take $164, multiply it by 0.075. And you should have some good idea on how much that is going to be. What would be about 7% of $164? 7% means $7 out of $100 you're gonna pay in tax. So if you have $164, what's a good guess? John Lick, what is a good guess at 7%? Mr. Willy Wonka addressed that whole thing in percentages in his movie. Remember he said 10% of something and 15% of something?
Oh, 11, 12 bucks.
Yeah. If 7% of 100 would be $7, this is almost, almost halfway to 200, so you'd add another $3 to it. Somewhere around $10, $11, $12. Let's do the math. You get 22, 32, 3, 8, 0, 28, 2, 42, 44, 4, 11, 0, 0, 3, 2. Did I get that right?
Yep.
$12,300, right, CJ? Does that sound right? Right?
It does not sound right,
Why not?
because that's a little over, that's what would happen if Bernie Sanders gets elected.
Yes, if Bernie Sanders gets elected, that is exactly it. You'd have $164, and the tax on that would be $12,300. What did I forget to do? Yeah, it had 3 decimal places in it. 3 decimal places, so $12.30. Fair even by Bernie Sanders. Sid? I would probably do 16. 16 is that negative exponent one. Sid, what'd you get for an answer for 16? You got y over 2x plus 6x? This was your answer? Do you see any addition or subtraction signs in that problem? How did you get from that addition to some of that addition? This is how it started. Sid, if you have a 2 down here and a 6 up here, how many times does 2 go into 6? 3 times. So you're going to be left with a 3 on top. Then the second thing we have to do is deal with this messy negative exponent. What do I do with that messy negative exponent? Move it to the bottom, it becomes x to the positive 2, right? So now probably it would just help you if you just wrote out all these x's and y's. If I have that, that's the same as this, y times x times x times x times x times x times y. Dots there, that helps you out. Are you with me where that's x to the 5th power is 5 x's times themselves, and 2 y's? Then on the bottom you have x times x, that's x squared. I have a y, and then another x squared. So then Sid, we can cross off 1 from 1 all the letters. X crosses off with x, 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 and y crosses off with y. So you're only left with 1 y and 1 x that did not cross off at the bottom. So it's 3xy. Does that help anything? What's left? Anything?
2, 5, 14, 18, 19.
Like, choose separate, but.
Nobody asked about this one? How many people got that one wrong? Who got 18 wrong? Raise your hand. Fess up. Ethan? Yeah. Ella Donahue, what do you get if you multiply 4 times 3? And then I write down my times 10. What happens to these exponents? Add them together. If you have negative 4 and you add negative 3 to it, what do you get? Negative 7. Now, those of you who take a look up here, why is this wrong? Why is this wrong, John Lick? Right. The first number of your scientific notation has to be between 1 and 10. So you need to take the decimal from here where it starts and put it right there. 1.2 is in my answer. The only issue now is I have to deal with this. What happens there, Ethan Malis? This was your issue, right?
Yes.
You made this one smaller, so you have to make that one bigger. And a lot of people get confused. What is a -7 plus 1? -6. What made, how can you see that? You have 6 negatives, 1 positive. That's going to cross out with one of those negatives. -6.
Sure, I think we should throw out this chair.
I agree. Just trade it for one that actually has a back that stays. Sid,
Oh, yeah.
which one? Sure. One last one, ladies and gentlemen, number 19. Let me tell you, you're really excited about this. Number 19, Sid, tell me what you think you should do. I want to get the letter X by itself. What did you try? Okay, now see that's, you always deal with the term that has the X last. You should have subtracted this one first. Usually the book, Sid, writes it like this. They usually put the X term first, so you're always used to subtracting this middle term, this middle one. But in this case, they tried to trick you. They put the X in the middle, but you still always want to get rid of the thing that doesn't have the X first. So you'll end up with subtracting 0.8. You subtract 0.8 from that, you end up with 0.4. Are you with me, Sid? And then what will I do at that point? Once I've got rid of that, I need to, what do I do with this 0.2? You need to, right, divide 0.2. And then be careful, the bottom one goes on the outside, 2 goes into 0.4. 2 whole times.